Welcome to the 700 Club. For today's top headlines, let's go over to the CBN News desk.
Gordon, this could be a historic moment in Israel, the end of Benjamin Netanyahu's term as the country's longest-serving prime minister. Sunday, Naftali Bennett announced he will join another Israeli politician, Yair Lapid, to form a wide-ranging coalition government made up of people with differing views. But there are questions about whether such a government will be able to survive. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Naftali Bennett, a right-wing former ally of Netanyahu, told the nation that the proposed coalition would bring unity back to Israeli politics.
A government like this will succeed only if we work together as a group. Not I, but we. We will bring back the we that was Israel's secret weapon since the day of its establishment. All parties are invited to join the government. For the government to succeed, we all need all partners in negotiations, and after that to show restraint.
Minutes after Bennett's announcement, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned the new government would put Israel in danger.
I call on the members who were elected with the right-wing votes. I call on those who have a conscience and who have a path. Go on with this path. Don't establish a leftist government. A government like this is a danger to the security of Israel and is also a danger to the future of the state.
According to the agreement between Bennett and Lapid, they would rotate the office of Prime Minister, with Bennett going first. Lapid is considered a key figure of the secular left, while Bennett is more of a leader of the religious right. They have until Wednesday to finalize the deal with parties from the right, center, left, along with the support of an Arab Islamist party. This is the so-called change bloc in order to oust Prime Minister Netanyahu.
When you have a right-wing and a left-wing party that is coming together, not based on issues, but based on trying to get rid of a particular personality, that results in a fairly unstable government, and generally they don't last very long. So there's a good chance that there will be more elections in Israel before you get to the midterm elections in the U.S.
Political analyst Eli Pieps says if Lapid and Bennett succeed in forming a new government, it will be tested.
Israel's enemies will be looking for Israel's weaknesses, looking for weaknesses in a coalition government that is really not based on very much, very easy to knock down this house of cards. So it is something that will encourage Israel's detractors, Israel's enemies in the world to try to take advantage of this new weakness.
Any new government will face a set of daunting challenges: Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran's nuclear program, internal tension between Jews and Arabs, and a rise of anti-Semitism around the world, along with the U.S. administration not nearly as friendly as the last one. It's why Pieps and others say it's a vital time to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Back here at home, America is marking Memorial Day, its annual day to remember those who gave their lives for their country. And Americans have been on the go this weekend, traveling like they haven't since before the COVID pandemic began, because now there are fewer cases, increased vaccinations, and declining restrictions. Heather Sells has the story.
Americans have stayed at home for over a year, but no more. This Memorial Day weekend, more than 37 million are traveling, up 60% from last year.
I remember last year it was like empty, and now it's all seats are full.
It brings a sense of freedom and just to get out again.
I haven't been home in 2 years, so whatever I got to do to get home, I'm going to do to get home.
One key reason people are out and about, they are clearly less anxious. A new Yahoo News poll Friday shows only 15% of Americans are very worried about COVID-19. They're feeling safer in part because of plummeting cases. The daily number is down nearly 70% in the last 6 weeks. Plus, Americans are getting vaccinated. Over half have received at least one shot. Helping to drive that, the recent eligibility of 12 to 15-year-olds.
The real game changer has been the vaccine.
With Americans more confident, the airlines are gearing up for a busy summer.
2020 obviously became the worst year we've ever had. Now 2021 is right here in the middle, and we're growing back towards 2019 levels.
What's also helping big cities like Chicago and New York and big states like Massachusetts and Minnesota lifting COVID restrictions. One plot twist this weekend, some downright cold weather in parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic.
It is absolutely disappointing.
But temperatures are expected to start climbing again today in many places. Across the country, Americans are remembering those who died while serving their country, from Watertown, Massachusetts to Sacramento, California.
Every year, the VFW organizes putting crosses and flags on the graves of veterans to honor those who have served in the military.
People are enjoying get-togethers that are long overdue and hoping to put COVID-19 in the rearview mirror as summer begins. Heather Sells, CBN News.
President Biden marked his first Memorial Day weekend as commander-in-chief by honoring those who sacrificed themselves for the nation. The president made his annual appearance at the commemoration in Newcastle, Delaware, not far from his home. The president also remembered his late son, Bo, who served in the National Guard in Iraq and died from cancer 6 years earlier to the day of the president's speech.
Because as a nation, we must always remember. Always remember. We must remember the price that was paid for our liberties. We must remember the debt we owe those who have paid it, the families left behind. My heart is torn in half by the grief. The communities are never whole again. Bo didn't die in the line of duty, but he was serving the Delaware National Guard unit in Iraq for a year. That was one of the proudest things he did in his life.
Biden has attended the ceremony nearly every year for decades. Turning now to Washington and the Museum of the Bible, where they're observing this Memorial Day in their own special way. Jenna Browder brings us that story.
There is a lot to see here at the Museum of the Bible, and in line with Memorial Day, there are several Bibles that accompanied soldiers into war. They tell powerful stories.
This is our Bible in America gallery, where we talk about the impact of the Bible from the Pilgrims all the way down to the present day.
Meet Dr. Jeffrey Clohaut, the museum's chief curatorial officer.
We have several objects that relate to really both sides in the Civil War and how the Bible was a source of comfort and encouragement to soldiers on both sides on a personal level.
In this particular case, items belonging to George Room, who served on one of the first African-American regiments.
He's posed in his military uniform. So pretty cool that we have all from one individual like that.
It's neat to put a face to some of these artifacts.
Yeah, I mean, there's the guy in 1864 who's using this Bible, right?
Mm-hmm. There's also a very famous piece of Americana.
The Battle Hymn of the Republic was, a Civil War song. It was written by Julia Ward Howe.
Is that her right there?
That's her there, yep. And she wrote this actually just about a mile away from here at the Willard Hotel.
A song she wrote to bolster the troops.
And partly, she says, to replace the less than pious songs that they were singing, right?
Behind the scenes, Jeff takes us beneath the museum where they keep even more wartime Bibles. This letter written by President Woodrow Wilson in 1917, encouraging soldiers to read the Bible.
This proclamation would be printed inside these little pocket Bibles, which would be distributed to soldiers.
And then there's this one.
Yeah, a little bit of character. Now, this is a Civil War era Bible, and it's actually in German.
What's unique about it?
See that stain there? That's almost certainly blood that ended up on the Bible and left this stain, from the Civil War.
Wow.
So again, shows the cost of war and the price people paid to maintain our freedom.
One Bible is particularly special to Jeff.
Yeah, this one I threw in here. Now, this is not actually in the museum collection. It was owned by my grandfather, John Flack, who served in the Second World War.
Jeff's grandfather fought in the Battle of the Bulge.
This was given to him by his pastor. It's a leather cover, and you can tell it's quite worn. He must have carried it all over in his battle gear.
Back upstairs, more one-of-a-kind Bibles, including those donated by past presidents. President Donald Trump, and the museum's newest addition, a Bible from President Jimmy Carter, received just a few weeks ago.
Inside the front cover is the name and phone number of the Sunday school teacher from First Baptist Church here in D.C., and we know from presidential archives that he attended that church 60 times during his presidency.
And if you can't make it to the museum, several of these Bibles are featured on the museum's website. Just go to the Collections tab and you can find them there. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
America honors those who defend it and have died for it, but even before it was a nation, soldiers were gathering to take up the cause of the American colonies against their British overlords. Yet they would be led by men whose first business wasn't war, but prayer. Paul Strand tells us their first coming together in Philadelphia and how it was under God.
Feeling the lash of British oppression, colonial representatives first met at Philadelphia's Carpenter's Hall in 1774. But no one was sure how to begin a Continental Congress. Firebrand Samuel Adams jumped in with a controversial proposal.
So let's open in prayer. Isn't that amazing? America is opened up with a proposal for prayer, and it begins with a debate over prayer. We can't pray.
Because historian Peter Lilback points out they were Catholics or Protestants from a wide array of denominations.
They never prayed together. They all thought they were from different religions. They thought we're biblical or we're true, and they're not.
Adams was a Congregationalist, basically a Puritan like those who under Oliver Cromwell fought a vicious civil war against England's Anglicans.
And the Puritans had chopped off the head of the Anglican Church. He's called Charles I the King.
But Adams made a revolutionary statement.
I can pray with any man who loves his God and loves his country. So here he is, a Congregationalist. And he says, I hear there's just such a man over in that church over there, the Anglican Church.
He proposed as pastor Jacob Duché open the Congress in prayer.
It was at that moment that Samuel Adams created the American ecumenical spirit, where in the public square we can walk over our denominational boundaries. Literally, if you will, he stepped over the aisle.
Duché came, but all dressed up in fancy priestly robes.
He came in his full pontificals, which meant he was really decked out with the very things that Puritans hated.
He held the Anglican Book of Common Prayer, which Puritans loathed. But then Duché began the reading set long ago for that day in the book. With a possible war looming, the Congress felt it was a totally prophetic moment, as the reading was from Psalm 35, about being loyal to an elder who suddenly betrays.
That we had been loyal to the mother country, and they're turning against us and harming us.
It started out, fight against them that fight against me. John Adams wrote his wife.
You would have thought in God's providence that was put into the Book of Common Prayer just for this day for us.
Duché's prayer then asked God for freedom from the rod of America's oppressor and ended in the name of Jesus Christ.
It's quite a remarkable moment that's where the American story began, in prayer, as opposite sides came together for a greater good in the name of Christ.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Carpenter's Hall, Philadelphia.